Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you've decided to tune in. Today we have a very, very, very special guest, and one that is super special to me because I grew up watching his Oklahoma State baseball teams just dominate on the diamond. So I'm a little bit nervous, I must admit. I'm even more excited to talk to Tom Holliday. So Coach Holliday is what I'm going to call you. I don't know how other people address you, but I'm going to call you Coach Holliday. So thank you so much for joining Dodgers Daily.
Casey, thanks for having me on and teaching me how to do these things. You know, I'm like so illiterate, I'm embarrassed. But we're going to zoom this thing away, whatever you want to talk about.
Hey, you say that you may be illiterate in Zoom, but I promise you, as we're going to go through this man's career, not illiterate when it comes to baseball. You came into Stillwater, Oklahoma, 1978 with your brother Dave, Gary Ward, and you guys just built an absolutely phenomenal baseball program there at Oklahoma State. So I'm going to have you start right there at the beginning. What brought you to Oklahoma State? Talk about Mickey Tettleton, some of the early groups that you had, Robin Ventura, Pete Incavilla, and that wonderful run you had at Oklahoma State.
Well, Casey, the oddity was I played for Coach Ward out of high school, and it probably started there because I was like from football, basketball country in Pennsylvania, and you know, if I played 20 baseball games a year, I was lucky. And
wrestling now in Pennsylvania, yeah.
Well, wrestling was big even in high school. I still remember getting thrown to the mat a couple times by my tight end, who I thought was my buddy. But anyway, the funny part is like, you know, you had the war, and it was like college or go to Vietnam. So, you know, it was like college for me. And of all the football scholarships I had, I kept getting a letter from Yavapai Junior College. And honestly, the biggest joke was Saturday morning breakfast when I'd get home from for whatever reason, our 9 o'clock Saturday morning meeting after getting beat up on Friday night. You know, I'd get home and we'd have breakfast. It was like one of the 2 days that I get to see my dad. So we go through the letters, and it'd be Minnesota, Ohio State, Michigan, Yavapai. And the joke was, how do you pronounce that? So we kind of came up with Yavapai. And I think that's it, you know, 45 years later, whatever.
Are you serious? I've been calling it this Yavapai this whole time because you guys made that up?
Well, you know, we sat there and said, Yavapai. You know, I mean, it was, we kicked it around pretty hard. And the sad part was like, of all the recruiting that I went through, all the letters you could tell were just form letters. And then you see the coach's signature at the bottom. But this thing I kept getting from this junior college was folded over and stapled. But there was a personal note in it every time. And I kept pushing it aside because I'm looking for some baseball letters. And boy, I mean, I had a couple like from Lafayette and Cornell. And I had no intention of going Ivy League. I wasn't that smart. And so, you know, I kept thinking, come on, somebody send me a baseball letter. And it was so frustrating. And so my dad told me about halfway through our football season, which wasn't going real well. He says, you know, why don't you call that guy, see what it's about. So I did. And he was the best recruiter that I talked to in any sport. So that kind of started it. So when I made an announcement that I was going to Yavapai Junior College, I think my whole town of Uniontown was like, he's nuts. You know, where's he going? And he's going someplace out in the desert. You know, I mean, I had to wear it, and I wore it. And the only thing Coach said was, if you don't like it after a year, you can go back and play football, you know, and I'll introduce you to Frank Busch because Arizona State's pretty good. Well, Frank Busch recruited our high school, and I knew about him, and he knew about me. He wanted me to be a strong safety. I wanted to be a quarterback. And so that ended
like your two sons were, yeah.
Yeah, Frank Busch ran the roost. And so, you know, I ended up at Yavapai Junior College, and honestly, best move I could have possibly made. Played a lot of baseball. I got caught up because Pennsylvania kids are behind. They still are, even though they don't know it. But and after that,
behind from a baseball perspective is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, from baseball. And 2 years later, when I'm leaving Yavapai, I had multiple choices, and I chose Miami of Florida because the assistant coach at Miami was a Western Pennsylvania guy, and he knew about me since high school, and he was smart enough to tell me that because it really set him aside.
Was Miami the power back then that they are that they've become?
No, they had never been to the College World Series, and they were a program that was good but not great. And
was Ron there at that time?
Coach Frazier was the head coach, and Coach McLean's the one that brought me in. And just like it was when I started coaching, your right-hand man does the recruiting. The head coach is the face of the program. And so I talked to Mac a bunch, and he said, no, you and Kathy come on down here, because we got married after my sophomore year. And he's like, we can make that work. It actually is going to help you. We can get her a job, So off to Miami. And after 2 years of playing there, I signed with the Pirates, which, Pirates had drafted me previously. And in those days, Casey, I said no to $15,000. And honestly, I had a hard time sleeping saying no to 15 grand. And I probably would have signed had I not strained my Achilles tendon after my junior year. But, by the time I was healthy, I couldn't have played any minor league ball. It was too late in the summer. So when I go play pro ball, I find out that I'm just one of many. And I really, really loved it, enjoyed it, learned a lot, had fun, made some lifetime friends, but I wasn't good enough. And maybe if I would have, kept bouncing around, I would have found it. But, when you got football on part of your brain and baseball on the other part, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You got to be all in to make it in baseball. And so I was, partially in, but I knew baseball was my future. The people that I had played for, Coach Ward and Coach Frazier, both told me someday you're going to be a heck of a coach. That's kind of a kiss of death, because they're trying to tell you you're not that good a player. I think. I don't know. It kind of depends on how you take it. But anyway, I got offered a coaching job at Miami. I got released from the Pirates on January 2nd. On January 3rd, Coach Frazier calls and had a spot on his staff, and he asked me to come back to Miami. And I was like, Coach, any chance you could tell me how much money I'm going to make? And he goes, yeah, how much are you making? How much you making with the Pirates? I said, $500 a month. He goes, you're going to make way more than that, and I'll get you a place to live. So Kathy and I load up the car. We find out
Kathy's your wife, yeah.
Kathy, my wife, we're pregnant with Joshua. So we're headed.
Who is now the head coach at Oklahoma State, by the way. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so we're headed to Miami, and I had a blast. I mean, I was coaching guys I played with, but I find out later that they're the ones who requested me, because Coach Frazier didn't know where to go at mid-year to get a coach. And he said, hey, these guys wanted you. And I was like, Coach, do you? And he goes, yeah, sure. I didn't even get along with him real well as a head coach.
Yeah, right.
But, he invites me in, and he treated Kathy and I like gold. So after that year, Coach Ward knew that I was in the college coaching thing for a reason. And Miami had gotten to the College World Series for the first time when I played it my junior year. So by the time
what year was that, if you don't mind?
That was, let's see, 74.
Wow. And then Coach Ward had been at Yavapai. He's who recruited you to Yavapai, yeah.
Yeah, and Coach Ward is winning his second junior college national title. And I'm telling him that he's wasting his time in junior college and needs to get to a 4-year school, because he's every bit as good as the people that I know in the business. And he finally said to me one day, okay, maybe I need to take a look at it. And so he had 3 choices, all really good schools. And he called and asked me, he said, if I take one of these jobs, you're going to come with me. And I'm like, sure. I kind of skipped in between there. I went from Miami to Arizona State because Coach Ward got me a job at Arizona State. So my second year in coaching was Arizona State, and we won the national championship when I was at Arizona State.
Who were some of the players on that team?
On that team, it was Bobby Horner.
Okay.
Wow. We had I think 4 guys that played in the big leagues on that Arizona State team. A lot of them were guys that got up for a year or two and kind of disappeared. But going back on it, there was always a superstar on every College World Series team, and Bobby Horner was the guy. And so Coach Ward takes the job at Oklahoma State, and I'm like, Coach, what are your choices? And he's Cal Berkeley, Oklahoma State. God, I don't know. I can't remember the third one. And I said, Cal Berkeley.
Was OU one of them?
No, OU was not one of them. OU was, they were awesome.
Yeah, Enos had it going, didn't he?
Oh, they had 3 years in a row in Omaha. So they were hot. I think the third school might have been New Mexico or someplace. But, I thought Berkeley was the place to go. And maybe UCLA was open. And Coach kept saying, well, what about Oklahoma State? And I said, Coach, I don't even know where Oklahoma is. And I'd never played there, and I played in a regional in Arlington, Texas, but never played in Oklahoma. And he's like, hey, that's where I was born and raised. He goes, I think we can get it done there. And I said, Coach, if you think we have to go rebuild no matter where we're going, if you think it can be done, let's do it. He took the job, and again, we packed the car up. Now we got a baby. And, we're driving back from Arizona to Stillwater, and he tells me where the field is, and I went looking for it all over campus, and I didn't think I found it. But then I pulled up on this side of the road, and I said, Coach, you said right down from the basketball arena. And he said, yeah. And, I said, all there is here is there's a fenced-in park with
some shrubs
8 feet high with weeds bigger than me. And he goes, that's it. And I said, whoa. And so I looked over at Kathy and I said, oh my God. And so then in joking manner, he says, well, when your brother gets there and your brother-in-law, you guys get all that dirt moved and get that thing ready. I'll be there in about 5 or 6 days. So I'm thinking, Coach, I agreed to coach. I'm not real good with shovels and rakes and stuff, but trust me, I learned in a hurry how to move dirt. And so we pulled weeds. I mean, it was like from morning till night. We had to get out of that sun. It was about 105 every day. And we cleared it. It still looked like an average ballpark at best. And all I could think of was I left Arizona State, the nicest facility in America, national champions. Everything was on a high to come here. And so when Coach Ward pulled up, I said, Coach, he goes, go find a place to live. And I said, I'm going to Marriott Housing because I'm not sure I'm going to be here very long. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, we got a lot further than I thought to go. So he goes, now we'll win. We'll get a new ballpark. Well, it took us, we did win. We won instantly. And I think we went from like 15 wins to 40. And then
this would be 1978.
Yep. And
Mickey
then
Tettleton in that group.
Yeah, well, our first group, Mickey was our second group.
Okay.
Because we literally inherited that team, plus all the Yavapai guys that Coach Ward had.
Yeah.
That was our first team, and anybody that would walk on that could, scratch their head and throw a baseball. So we took it. We were open. I mean, if you walked in off the street, you got a shot. and we won 40. Honestly. The pitching coach right now for the Atlanta Braves was our number one guy, Rick Kranitz. Rick was afraid of nobody. He grew up in Phoenix, wanted to play at Arizona State. He was the hardest recruit that I had at that time because he kept saying, if I'm going to go to school, I'm staying here and go to Arizona State. I said, no, you've got to come with us. We need you as our number one guy. And so we played on that. We got him. But
nice.
We lost in the conference tournament to OU. And so we kind of got inside Oklahoma. We cracked the next year. We got Mickey Tettleton, who, quite frankly, was a shortstop that we didn't know whether Mickey could play or where we were going to play him. And he was a shortstop that had a machine gun arm. And you look at him and you start thinking third base, no, right field, no, catcher, no. Well, let's just take him. He's an all-around guy, and we did. And Timmy Rogers, one of the best right-hand pitchers to this day that I ever coached. But Timmy came with us, and Timmy had absolutely the perfect personality for us. He didn't talk; he just spoke with his actions, and so we now had some guys in Oklahoma that the kids around were saying, "Hey, this is real deal, man. These guys are going to have a good team." Yeah. And third year, we win the Big Eight, as that's what it was in those days, and. And then the fourth year, we went to the College World Series, and we got over the hump. And, we didn't have to go out of state all the time. We were getting 3 or 4 kids a year, but 20 out of state a year. So figure that out. There's a lot of work there. And some of the players that we went out and got early, kids that put us on the map, the Darren Dilks, Benji De La Rosas.
De La Rosa.
Yeah, could hardly speak English, didn't know what college was all about. Guys that we had to educate, basically on life as much as about baseball. And, we kind of got on a pretty good roll in 81. And, you know what, Casey, I think we go 7 or 8 years in a row. And it got to the point where we knew who we were losing and we just had to replace them. But probably after 81, we got Pete Incaviglia. And then the entire country, knew about Oklahoma State. They wanted us on TV because they wanted to see Pete Incaviglia. They wanted to see Babe Ruth, and we had him.
Before you go on, do you remember the home run he had against Grambling in the regional? I swear to goodness, it went over the lights at Allie P. Reynolds Stadium and went over the softball left field fence. Do you remember that home run?
You are totally accurate. And as it turns out, one of my best friends ever at Oklahoma State, it was late getting to the ballpark.
Yeah.
He sat in the top bleacher in the girls' softball field. Yeah. So when Pete hit the home run,
which is behind left field of Allie P.
Right, in left field, like looking over your corner there. Just imagine a ball going over that scoreboard. Then it went over to softball field.
Golly.
And it landed like 2 feet from the street, and it rolled into the street. And Carl was an older guy, not old, but older. And I said, "Why don't you go get it?" And he goes, there's kids running after it. And I
was probably one of them.
Huh?
I was probably one of them.
Yeah, because honestly, nobody could believe how far that ball went. And coming around third base, Grambling's entire dugout stood up and gave him a standing ovation. I mean, this is like our first game of that.
Oh, that is fantastic.
And they're like clapping. We're looking over, and you know what? They had a guy throwing 90, 91. And in those days, that was really, really hard. And he just didn't have any stuff. And Pete got one of those 90s. And, well, I don't know if that ball, I'd like to have that ball. I think it was 10, But after Pete, we got into that. Pete left in 3 years. We got to get another star. We get Robin Ventura. And it just continued, maybe the best hitter. Pete might have been the best power hitter ever.
Yeah.
Then we get Robin Ventura, maybe the best college hitter ever. And we dropped down a little bit to a guy named Jeremy Burnitz.
Not bad, yeah.
Hitter. Yeah, a guy that fought with himself as much as he did the other team. But I always felt good that he was on our team fighting because he was,
no doubt,
he was that personality that if you could control him, you win. If you didn't, then you probably had to sit down with him a little bit. But Jeremy's, 13, 14 years in the big leagues. And by the way, ended up playing like one of his last 2 years with Matt in Colorado, which was kind of cool.
I did not know that. Oh, very cool. That is very cool.
Yeah, Jeremy was the best player babysitter that my wife and I could find inside the player ranks. And we went through all of them. And Jeremy would come over and wash his car, play with the kids. We'd fix him something to eat. He'd do it. He'd watch the kids till we snuck off and went to a movie or whatever. But for him to play with Matt, that was really, really fun. And, Casey, it's like it seems like yesterday, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. I know all about it, brother.
Yeah, you were a kid and I had a full head of hair. But, it's been a fun ride for me. I can tell you that all the way through.
You mentioned Josh, who is now the head coach at Oklahoma State University. You've mentioned Matt a couple of times. Of course, Matt was the Major League All-Star. Just got a new gig as the bench coach for the St. Louis Cardinals. I know your brother Dave, who came to Oklahoma State with you to coach for Gary Ward. He got a new gig last January with the Philadelphia Phillies in the front office. Your son, your oldest son, Josh, is the head coach at Oklahoma State University. So it's good times right now in the Holliday family, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everybody's employed, which makes that a good time. You kind of sit around and you think, so what's really good about baseball? Well, you know what's good about baseball, Casey, when you get a paycheck every month to coach baseball or to play baseball or, scout baseball, like Dave was out a year. Quite frankly, he had a little health issue, which was perfect. He needed a year off. He didn't know that, but he did. And to come back and the Phillies hire him as a big league scout, which he does really well. And, I admire him because he likes to travel and he never complains about that lifestyle. And now Matt's going to, go back into the baseball world because probably the fact that the Cardinals and Matt have a love affair.
Yeah, no doubt.
And, to go back as a bench coach, you start thinking, what's that about? Where's that going to go? And I think Matt wants to manage at a younger age than an older age. So he was out of it for 2 or 3 years working with Josh, and he loved that. Quite frankly, Josh is one of those guys that, he appreciates his help, but he works so hard that,
yes.
I think, and I say this with total respect for what guys do in the assistant coaching world, Josh just kind of has grown into a one-man gig, where it's his program now.
Yeah, I see it every day, no doubt.
Yeah, every coach will go through that period. You appreciate your help early, and then it's like, now this is my program. We win, I stay. We don't, I leave. That kind of thing it's real. It's sports. So, Matt chooses to go back to the Cards. Josh still has a really incredible coaching staff, but Matt now is chasing his second dream, and it has nothing to do with money, finance. I mean, it's in his heart to manage in the big leagues, and that, it tickles me to death because I've always said that I think Josh is going to manage in the big leagues, and so Josh is in love with coaching in college. There's a lot of similarities, fewer games. At times, I think as much time is spent. But, we could talk about that for hours if you want to
no doubt.
Comparison. But, we're tracking the grandkids. And, God, I just hope I'm around long enough to see a grandkid play in the big leagues. I don't know which one it's going to be, but.
It might not take long because Jackson, what was he, the third pick of last year's draft?
He was the first pick.
Okay.
And then they start telling his little brother he's going to be the first pick in the first round 3 years from now, and he'll be the first Oklahoma high school kid to get that. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? What's 1-1? And then Jackson goes 1-1. So Ethan, his little brother, who's not very little, is the one we're tracking now. And then Josh's son Brady is on deck. He's in 8th grade, and he's the guy that plays with a glove that is an eye catcher. Jackson is good all around. Ethan he's good defensively, but he can really, really hit. And Brady's the one that can really, really pick it up and throw it. And as he gets stronger, he's going to hit. Yeah. His dad's with him every day, so I don't think he can go wrong. And then we got one that's only 9 years old, but he's a lefty all the way, and that's going to take a little work because I think he's going to be a left-hand pitcher, which we have nothing like that in our family. So
yeah, no doubt about it. And we're going to get into your Cape Cod League, your managing experience that you're doing currently in the Cape Cod League. But we're going to go ahead and finish session 1, the Oklahoma State session, with Tom Holliday and his talk about his entire career there and some of the experiences that he had as a Cowboy. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a guy that he coached that Dodgers fans, we're going to tie the Dodgers into this for Dodgers Daily, a guy that he coached in the Cape Cod League for the Chatham Anglers, Michael Busch, and that's going to be in Chapter 2 when we come back.